So first couple things to remind you of is the grading breakdown. So you've got your 4 points per pre-lab quiz. Again, these are 4 questions long, and then this will be 20 points total for 5 labs and 10% of your grade. You also got more substantial weekly quizzes. They're going to be 5 again and 18 points each. That's about 90 points total and 45% of your grade. And then we have the cumulative practical, which is going to be at the end. Now, the practical will be broken down into 3 parts. You'll have part 1, which covers the first 2 weeks, part 2, which covers weeks 3 and 4, and then part 5 is an overlap of the last 2 weeks, which will be 4 and 5. So I'll share that breakdown as we move along, but definitely try to make sure that you're keeping up with the material. This 5 weeks is going to go very, very fast. And so the exam is cumulative and you want to be prepared for it in that order. Okay, there are going to be separate parts. So you can take each of those parts as early or as late as you want. And you can spend the full time in each of those parts, but you have to complete each in that sitting. And then you can move on to the next one. You'll have a full week to take your practical. So you can kind of break it down depending on how you're reviewing those weeks. All right, so that is the grading. And then you have your weekly quizzes, which will be a good percent of your grade as well. And the topics, the structures that will be testable are shared in the structure list. So I am going to go through the content sort of in a general way, and I've also got practice questions sprinkled throughout. But the topics that you are expected to know on the quizzes are listed in that structure list. So definitely focus in on those and be able to identify those in more detail. I've also shared this in Brightspace as well, but I usually get questions about alternate terms. So there are certain structures that we will look at that have different terminology, alternate variations, and I will accept any of those. So I will usually go back after the quiz closes and grade the responses that I have set in Brightspace will either grade it for or deduct points, but then I will go back, and if there are any terms that are alternate anatomy terms that were not acceptable at first, I will go back and accept those for full credit. Also, any spelling errors. So let's say you missed 1 or 2 characters, right? Those are off in terms of the spelling. I will usually go back at the end and regrade that. So if you don't see that adjusted by the following week, then you can send me an email. But usually when the quiz closes, I will go back and readjust the automatic grading to accept any of those. Okay. These are the content or topics that we will discuss. We're going to start with the head and sensory structures, especially focusing on the eyes and sight and the ears and hearing. We're also going to look next at the neck. So kind of moving sequentially down the center of the body, down the trunk. We're going to move to the neck and respiratory structures. Then we're going to move to the heart and thoracic cavity, blood vessels, etc. And then down into the abdomen, GI, and then finally to the pelvis, where we will speak about urinary structures and reproductive. So the urinogenital system, all right? And then the course resources are your atlas. If you need it, it's going to be really helpful to visualize certain relationships, how structures are in relation to each other, and then just get a better sense of the different ways that structures can be visualized. And then the lecture notes, right? So that's kind of your course resources. As far as extra supplementary resources or extra help, if you're having difficulty, please reach out to me. I don't believe they're offering open lab hours. And open lab hours really won't be helpful in the format of this course, just because we will not be using cadaver images or the cadaver at all. So I think I will be the best resource to go to for extra help. If you do have TAs that are helping in the physiology lab, they may be good if you have additional questions or if you have difficulty. But please reach out to me. Zoom appointments, same day appointments are fine if you do have any difficulty with the lab.